Hi everybody, it's Professor Horlacher and I'm here to introduce some Chapter 6 material. In this unit we'll be learning some new 6/3 chords. Let's get rid of that comma, that was a mistake. The chords that we're going to learn are 1, 6/3, either a major or minor triad depending on whether we're in a major or minor key. 5, 6, 3, and I can just write 6 as the abbreviation. 5 is always a major triad because we remember to raise the leading tone even when we're in minor. 7, 6, and it's also a diminished triad because the same thing happens in minor. We raise the leading tone to create that harmony. And finally, 4, 6. It can be either a major minor triad depending on what key we're in. And so this gives us some new possibilities for some bass pitches. So far, with our root position basses, we've only had scale degrees 1 and 5 in the bass. Now we also get to have scale degrees 2, 3, 7, and 6 in the bass. This will give us a lot more chances to write some really beautiful, elegant bass lines. Okay, let's try the next. The purpose of these chords is to connect. So, for example, if we have now scale degrees 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7 in the bass, we can start to make some bass lines that are really beautiful. For example, we can do 1, 2, 3 in the bass, and we will be connecting 1 to 1, 6, that's what harmony we use with 3 in the bass, via a 7, 6 chord. So there's a nice stepwise bass and there's a nice sense of direction by using a passing chord in between the more stable tonic chords on the outside. We can also make a bass line now that goes 1, 7, 1. So that the scale degree 7, using a 5, 6 chord in between the more stable 1 chords, is like a neighbor. A couple of other things we can do, 5, 6, 7. So between two versions of 5, we can put in a passing harmony 4 right there, passing between the root position 5 and the 6/3 version of the 5. The last one is a little bit different, but we are going to be doing this later in the week. We're going to be passing from 1 down to 3 via a scale degree 6. And the reason this sounds like a passing motion, even though there are leaps, is that all 3 of these are triadic leaps. And so here we would be going from 1 to 1, 6 via the 4, 6 chord. Okay, next slide. What do you do above these? There are certain kinds of formulas that we're going to learn to recognize. So say, for example, we are in F major and we write 1, 2, 3. I'll do it twice here. 1, 2, 3. In the bass line, there are a couple of very common soprano lines that go above this. One of them is 3, 2, 1. My pen is not very good, but I'll write here 3, 2, 1 above 1, 2, 3 with the 7, 6 chord in between as the connecting chord. And one of the interesting things that happen here is that the scale degree 3 in the soprano ends up as 3 in the bass, and vice versa. The 1 in the bass ends up as 1 in the soprano. That's called a voice exchange, and composers use it all the time. Here's another really common harmonization for 1, 2, 3 in the bass, 3, 4, 5. So both voices are moving by step in the same direction. And here we can again use the 7, 6 between 1 and 1, 6. I think you get the idea. I'll give you one more here. Here's 5, 6, 7. And here is 7, 6, 5 in the soprano, and this one also has the voice exchange going on. Scale degree 5 and scale degree 7 are exchanged. And here's a chance for us to put a 4/6 chord between two versions of 5. Good. Next. Here's an example of Bach doing this. This is a chorale in G minor. Here's what G minor sounds like. And on the upbeat, we start out on a 1/6 chord. So why don't you sing along as I play this? Isn't it beautiful how that bass line moves almost entirely by step? It's got one single leap here between 1 and 1/6, but other than that, Bach is able to fill in a bass line that is quite distinct from the kinds of bass lines we've been writing previous to this week. Starting out on a 1/6 chord, you'll notice that he uses this voice exchange figure right at the start here. So 1/6 goes to 1. And in this particular case, the C and the A are passing tones. They're not harmonized. But look a little bit later where the melody is not 1/3, but actually has the 2 in that, 1, 2, 3. And then the bass, we have 3, 2, 1. So here's an example of another voice exchange where what were passing tones are now harmonized by a 7/6, a nice connecting chord. And as we might expect, Bach saves the 5/7 chord for the very end of the passage so that the pack sounds very, very expected and directed. I'll play this one more time so you can hear these voice exchanges. And there's a 1/6, and here this time we harmonize between the voice exchange. And there is the 7th. Good. One more slide. A couple of things I want to review about doubling. And I want to also introduce something that we do not like, similar motion to fifths and octaves, and this is a bad thing. It's more likely to come up now that we have more bass motion possible. Our doubling rules are pretty much the same. Root position chords, we still like to double the root, though there are other possibilities. 6/3 chords, it's possible to double root, third, or fifth. The main thing is to remember not to double certain things. Never double the leading tone, never double a dissonance like a 7th, and in a 5/7 chord, no 2 roots, 2 thirds. So these are things that we tend to avoid. But the doubling rules are a little looser for 6/3 chords as long as we don't create these problems here. Now, in C major, I want to set up something that could now happen when we have additional bass notes possible. Here's something that looks possibly okay. It's the example of a 5/6 going to a 5 chord. And we do want to resolve that leading tone, so I'll add a 1 chord at the end here. What I don't like about this is that both voices are leaping in the same direction, in similar motion, toward a 5th. And the same problem would occur also toward an octave. And this is considered to be inelegant unless the soprano moves by step. And there are some instances where that happens. But if both outer voices leap into, in similar motion, into a 5th or an octave, which is something that can happen more often now, we try to avoid that. Okay, see you in class.